Mauritania, Mozambique, Madagascar, Malaysia, Mongolia. Herman, if you could go anywhere in the world right now, where would you go? You want to go to the ocean? I love the ocean. Let me think about this. Here's what we can do. Your public library has a bunch of books about the ocean. So today, we're going to look at briefly at a few of those books, and then I'm going to read one that's one of my favorites, and I think it will inspire a pretty fun activity afterward. Let's sail off on an adventure. Welcome to the children's room at the Dickinson Memorial Library, where we have lots of stories for our youngest readers, an alphabet book that's ocean themed, or look at this one, Hello Ocean Friends, in black and white, very simple language, hello fish, what's up turtle? Or the next level up might be National Geographic Kids' first big book of the ocean. You can learn great details about animals of the ocean. Or if you've never seen these ology books, the Oceanology one is really fun. Great adventure time in there. And those are just some of the many books we have. We got a bunch of books on the animals of the ocean and the scientists who study them. Octopus scientists, manatee scientists, and of course we have a lot of books on sharks. They are some of our most popular. If sharks aren't your thing, what about mermaids? Jan Brett has a wonderful book, or a series of chapter books called The Tale of Emily Winsnap, or Treasure Island. We have multiple copies, lots of great chapter books, books on pirates, all of which are themed on the ocean. You can go on an adventure with the Magic School Bus, or if the Magic School Bus isn't your thing, you can do the Magic Treehouse, adventures with Jack and Annie. Looks like they're in trouble with the octopus. Humphrey the hamster goes on adventures. Duck and Goose go on adventures in the ocean. We also have some great movies. You've probably seen The Little Mermaid, but have you seen Ariel's Beginning? And we have a bunch of books on the Titanic. Everybody loves to study the Titanic. And what if you have books just on the coral reef? And of course, we have great picture books. Look at some of the pictures from Ocean Meets Sky. Beautiful books. All right, Herman, here's the book I picked out. The Uncorker of Ocean Bottles. Have you ever heard this concept of people putting messages in bottles and then putting a cork in it to seal it, and they throw it out to sea, and they hope that somebody retrieves it as a little surprise message? Well, this book is about the guy who is responsible for delivering all those messages that people put in ocean bottles. The Uncorker of Ocean Bottles. I hope you enjoy it. The Uncorker of Ocean Bottles. Written by Michelle Cuevas, illustrated by Aaron E. Stead. The Uncorker of Ocean Bottles lived alone on a high spot with only one tree for shade. He always kept his eyes on the waves, watchful for a glint of glass. I know some of my friends out there like to look for sea glass. Let's see if that's what the Uncorker of Ocean Bottles finds. He had a job of the utmost importance. It was his task to open any bottles found at sea and make sure they were delivered. Sometimes to deliver a bottle, he needed only to stroll to the nearest village. Other times, he would journey until his compass became rusty and he felt loneliness as sharp as fish scales. Sometimes the messages were very old, crunchy like leaves in the fall. Sometimes the messages were written by a quill dipped in sadness. But most of the time, they made people quite happy, for a letter can hold the treasure of a clam-hugged pearl. Oh, look how happy he made that person. While the uncorker of ocean bottles loved his job, he couldn't help but wonder if he would ever receive a letter. Truth be told, each time he opened a bottle, a part of him hoped to see his own name winking from the top of the page. But then he remembered that this was about as likely as finding a mermaid's toenail on the beach. For he had no name. He had no friends. He stank of seaweed and salt and fishermen's feet. No one would ever write him a letter. But he still would have liked it, just the same. One day, the waves tipped their white postman hats to the uncorker and delivered a bottle with a very peculiar letter inside. I'm not sure you will get this in time, but I am having a party. Tomorrow, evening tide, at the seashore. Will you please come? Oh dear, said the uncorker. He had no idea who the letter was for or where to deliver it. But the truth was, he was very curious. He'd never been invited to a party before, and he suspected he might like to go. First, he visited the maker of cakes. Pardon, said the uncorker, but do you recognize this print? The cake maker studied the note. Don't recognize the script, he finally said, but oh, how I love a seaside dance. The uncorker moved on. He asked the candy shop owner. He asked a woman buying chocolate-dipped treats. He asked a young girl in a green dress. Sorry, each one sighed, though I do wish I'd received an invitation to such a party. The uncorker asked a seagull, a sailor, and a one-man band. But nobody could claim the letter. Nobody in the sky, or sand, or sea. The uncorker felt very low. This was the first time he'd been unable to deliver a message. Well, what do you think he should do? Let's see what he does. As he fell asleep that night, the uncorker decided to go to the seashore the next day. He would go and apologize to the writer of the note. The uncorker of ocean bottles arrived early, carrying a handful of his favorite seashells. He thought it might be rude to show up uninvited and empty-handed. The seashore was draped in seaweed and starfish. Candles floated in clamshells. There were sand sculptures and umbrellas. "It's you," said the maker of cakes. "How grand," said the candy shop owner. The other guests had arrived already. A woman, a girl in a green dress, a seagull, a sailor, and a one-man band. When the girl in green asked the uncorker of ocean bottles to dance, he said, "I'm not sure I know how, but I'd like to just the same." As they spun across the beach to the water's edge and back again, everyone smiled and kept the beat. The Uncorker's heart was a glass vessel filled to the brim. As the stars began to arrive, and the moon as well, the Uncorker took out the bottle he had been unable to deliver. "Perhaps," he said, his mouth full of cake. "Yes, perhaps I shall try to deliver this again tomorrow." That was fun, Herman. I feel like we got a little glimpse into part of the ocean, but boy, just a tiny piece. Look how much ocean there is out there. You know, that story makes me want to do two things. First, it makes me want to go to my public library and check out some of those awesome books about the ocean. There's so many cool things to learn. And second, thinking about how much the Uncorker of Ocean Bottles loved receiving that letter, and how much all those people loved receiving their letters, it makes me want to write a letter. Do you want to write a letter? Who are you going to write a letter to, Herman? To Henry. Who's Henry? Oh, Henry is your friend, the bear, who lives in Utah. Well, I'm sure he'll love receiving your letter. I'm going to write to the Uncorker of Ocean Bottles. If anybody else wants to write to the Uncorker, you can send the letter to the library. I'll be sure to get it to the Uncorker. He loved receiving the letter. I bet he'd love to receive a letter from you, too. That's it for today, everybody. So much world to explore, so many stories to read. Happy reading, everybody. Until next time.